everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm doing my July wrap-up. This month I read 8 books, which I think is really great. I enjoyed most of the books that I read, so let's just start talking about all the books that I read. The first book that I read this month is probably one of the most disappointing books that I read this year. I'm really sad to say that because I wasn't expecting to dislike this book, but I ended up being really disappointed, and this book is Hearts, Fingers, and Other Things to Cross by Katie Finn. This is the third book in the Broken Hearts and Revenge trilogy. The first one is called Broken Hearts, Fences, and Other Things to Mend. And in case you didn't know, Katie Finn is Morty Matson's pen name. This whole trilogy has to do with secrets, revenge, friendships, and the first 2 books give off a great summer vibe. I was expecting a really fun summer read when I got to the third book. I was actually pretty surprised at how thin this book is. So that was kind of the first red flag about this book, just how thin it was compared to the first 2. It is a contemporary book, but I wasn't sure how the series will wrap up. I liked the first 2. I think I gave them like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The main plot of this book just shows how immature the characters really are, and it was really frustrating with everything that was happening. Since this is the third book, I don't want to go into too much details. This book just didn't have the same summer vibes as the previous ones, and I was just disappointed by it. I feel like the characters still haven't really talked about their issues, and I wish that would have happened. Overall, I would rate this book a 1.5 out of 5 stars. The 0.5 is for the romance. I really enjoyed that. The next book that I read is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elier Sains. I actually listened to this book as an audiobook because Lin-Manuel Miranda, aka the person that plays Alexander Hamilton in Hamilton, I've heard that listening to the audiobook was a really good reading experience, so I decided to do that. And I really enjoyed it. There really isn't a main plot in this book, but it follows 2 characters, Aristotle and Dante. They meet one day in the summer, they form an instant bond, and they become really great friends. And this whole book follows their adventures. This book was such a touching and heartwarming read. I love Aristotle and Dante's friendship, and I love their relationship with their parents. In a lot of YA books, parents really aren't involved in the story, and I love the presence of these 2 characters' parents throughout the entire book. By the end of the story, I was really attached to these 2 characters, but it did take me a while to get invested into the story, so that was why I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is You by Caroline Kepnes. I have been wanting to read this book for a while now, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. This book follows a man named Joe who works in a bookstore, and one day this woman named Beck walks in. Joe is immediately fascinated by this woman, and he ends up stalking her. This was such a creepy read. It definitely made me think about social media and how people can easily find information about you through the internet. It definitely makes you want to be a bit more cautious about what you put out there. This book was told in second point of view, which added to the creepy factor. While I did like this book, I wish I liked it more. I think because of all the good things that I've heard about it, I was expecting something a lot more crazy, intense, something a bit similar to Gone Girl. While it did definitely have its crazy and intense moments, I was expecting a lot more. Also, I don't know if it was just me, but when it came to the writing of the characters' actions, it just felt really choppy to me, especially when it comes to 2 characters interacting with one another. I just get really confused as to what one character is doing, what the other character is doing. The writing kind of just blends together. One second the characters are doing this, and then next this is happening, and I'm just like, what? What just happened? Other than that, I did enjoy this book. I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I definitely recommend it if you're in the mood for something creepy. The next book that I read is actually a reread, and it is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is actually my 3rd time rereading it. I reread it when the movie was coming out, and now I just reread it. I actually buddy read this book with my friend Nock from Happy Comes First. I've been wanting to reread one of my favorite series, either Vampire Academy or The Mortal Instruments, for so long. Buddy reading it with Nock definitely motivated me to pick this book up again, and I'm really glad I did because there was a lot that I forgot, and it was just so good to be back in the Shadowhunter world. I really love the characters. I think the characters are definitely one of my favorite things about The Mortal Instruments. I just love seeing how everything started, and I hope that I can continue rereading the rest of the books in the series. I don't know if I will ever get to it, but I really hope I do. The next book that I read is The Darkest Magic by Morgan Rose. This is the 2nd book in a Book of Spirits and Thieves, which is the spin-off series for Fallen Kingdoms. Although I do prefer the Fallen Kingdom series to this one, I do like that this series switches back and forth from ancient Mythica to present-day Toronto, so I really love the addition of the modern-day setting. I do like the chapters that take place in Toronto more than the chapters that take place in Mythica, mainly because I like the characters that those chapters follow. I really like where the story is going. I'm really interested in seeing how these 2 different settings and the characters connect with one another. We are getting much closer to that, and I can't wait to see what's in store. I would rate this book a 4 out of 5 stars, mainly because I don't really feel any sort of attachment to any of the characters, especially compared to Fallen Kingdoms. And also, I forgot a lot of the specific events that happened in the previous book, so I was pretty confused for the very beginning of this book. While I was confused for the beginning, it didn't take me long to get back into the story. The next book that I read is All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Natural series, which follows a group of teenagers that have some sort of natural ability and they help the FBI solve cases. I was really excited to read this book because I really love the second book. I really like that each book focuses on one of the members of the Naturals, but it's still told in Cassie's point of view. So we do get more of a focus on other characters, but it's still told in our main character's point of view. And I really like that, mainly because I do love Cassie as a character, but I also want to know more about the other people in this program. I love that we got to learn more about Sloane's character because we really don't know much about her from the previous two books, and we learned a lot about her in this one, and I think Sloane is a really great character. I really love that there has been this overarching storyline that has to do with Cassie's mom, and seeing it slowly connect with what's going on in the story. The author does a wonderful job just crafting everything together. I'm constantly shocked with everything that happens, and I am so excited for the fourth book. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I love the setting of it. It takes place in Las Vegas, which is hinted in the book's cover. I definitely really enjoyed how complex the serial killing is in this book, but I wasn't as shocked with the reveal of who done it. I'm still super excited to read the next one. It's going to be the last one, I believe, so it's a 4-book series. It's a very great series, and if you're into Criminal Minds, I highly recommend that you check the series out. I would rate this book a 4.25 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books that I read are written by the same author, and they're in the same series, so I thought I'd mention them at the same time, and they are The Kiss of Deception and The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. This is my second time rereading The Kiss of Deception and my first time reading the second book, and I'm sure you guys know, but the third book, The Beauty of Darkness, comes out in August. As I'm filming this video, the book came out today, so I wanted to prepare myself for the third book. Plus, I'm going to be meeting the author on Sunday, which will be really fun, and so I wanted to be prepared when I meet her because I don't want it to be awkward. The first book follows Leah, who is a princess, and she flees on her wedding day. She goes to this distant village with her friend Pauline, and they end up staying there, but what she doesn't know is that she is chased after an assassin that was sent to kill her, and she's also followed by the prince that she was supposed to marry. When I was reading The Kiss of Deception, I feel like there just wasn't that much going on, but I was still really interested in the story. With The Heart of Betrayal, I really enjoyed the expansion of the world and learning about Venda's history and culture. We are introduced to a new villain who I loved to hate. He reminded me a lot of the Darkling. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that, especially since he doesn't even go by an actual name. He goes by this title. I just really loved how complex this character was. This character really intrigues me, and I've always wanted to learn more about him, but I also hated him at the same time. As for the romance, I don't have any strong feelings towards either of the love interests, so I do really like that this isn't a frustrating type of love triangle. I honestly could be satisfied if Leah ended up with Rafe or Caden. It honestly doesn't really matter to me. With the ending, I am sort of leaning towards one side more. We'll see what happens in the third book. I really love Leah's character in this book. I loved her character development. She is fierce, defiant, and headstrong. I also really enjoyed the relationship she formed with this little girl named Aster. It was a type of sisterly bond, and I really loved it. I think Aster was a wonderful character, and I really want to talk more about her, but I can't because it will spoil the book. I am still really curious about the whole gift element in the book. I feel like it hasn't been explained, and even though readers do get a gist of what it is, I would still have liked to see it more developed. So overall, I give The Kiss of Deception a 4 out of 5 stars, which I'm pretty sure I lowered from my previous rating of a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I would give this book a 4.25 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is You Know Me Well by Nina LaCour and David Levithan, and follows our two main characters, Mark and Kate, who have sat next to each other in class for almost an entire year, and they've barely spoken to one another, but one day they meet each other outside of class, and that is kind of where the story begins. This book has strong LGBT plus elements to it, and I really love that. I love that it took place during Pride Week. This book is told in dual point of view, and while I mostly enjoyed both characters, I was more invested in Mark's story. I also really love that there was a big focus on friendship in this book. I really enjoyed seeing Mark and Kate's friendship. Once they actually started talking to one another, they connected really easily, and I love their interactions throughout the story. I also really enjoyed that the characters deal with issues that aren't love related, but they're issues that teenagers may face in the real world. This book was really short, and it was also really fast paced, and I personally wasn't a fan of how fast paced it was. There was just a lot of different things happening in under 250 pages. I would have liked the book to be a bit longer so that there could be more character development. Overall, it was a quick read, and I would rate it a 3 out of 5 stars. Those are all of the books that I read in July. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!